A Christian politician jailed in Indonesia for insulting the Quran has been released from prison. Known as Ahok, the 52-year-old has been behind bars since May of last year after being sentenced for blasphemy. Anne Barker joins us now live from Jakarta. Afternoon, Anne. When was he released?
Lorna. Well, it happened well before anybody expected. In fact, there were crowds here at the police headquarters and jail where he was held. But in fact, he was released at 7 a.m. and most of the media and his supporters here had no idea until about 2 hours later. Ahok had told his supporters not to gather outside the jail. Presumably one of those reasons was to avoid the possibility of massive violent protests that we saw against him before his conviction and trial. So it was a very low-key release. His supporters, there was not a huge crowd of them, but they were very jubilant, chanting and singing, and no doubt the authorities too wanted it to be a low-key, sort of invisible release, if you like. His son drove him out, and as far as I know, none of the cameras caught that happening.
Since he was put in jail, Anne, has anything changed about religious tolerance in Indonesia?
Well, look, it was the hardline Islamic groups that led the protests against Ahok 2 years ago. He was the Christian governor of Jakarta. He was very popular. He was seen as a very clean politician who was against corruption. He was popular among moderates and secular Indonesians, but the possibility that he might enter sort of national politics, he was an ally of Joko Widodo, now the president of Indonesia. That was what really angered a lot of the Muslim groups. And when he came out with the comments that he did, saying that there was nothing in the Quran that prevented voters from electing a non-Muslim governor, that was what tipped the anger into these mass violent protests a couple of years ago. Now, since then, we've seen that religious sentiment harden in Indonesia. There are now much more pronounced divisions among Muslims and non-Muslims. We've seen a growth in the number of cases where other people are also accused of blasphemy. And with an election only 3 or 4 months away now, there are fears that that will underpin a lot of the political sort of debate and sentiment in the weeks ahead.
Any indication then of what his next move will be? Will he re-enter politics?
Well, look, some of his supporters would love to see him go into politics. The same party that Joko Widodo is a member of, the PDIP, has actually said they would love Ahok to go into politics. But given those sensitivities that I mentioned, it's highly unlikely. Joko Widodo is now being targeted by some of those same hardline groups that targeted Ahok. He actually appointed a very conservative Muslim cleric as his running mate in the middle of last year, specifically, of course, to counter the Muslim enough, as some of them say. So the idea that a Christian governor could enter politics before that election is really unthinkable, and it may well be that he chooses another career, perhaps as a TV presenter, he's indicated. We're yet to see exactly what he'll do.
Anne Barker, thank you very much for that.